Right. Welcome back to the Know Your Numbers REI podcast. This is your host, Chris McCormack. I am a CPA, certified tax planner, and MBA here at Better Books, where it is the goal of my wife and I and our team to give you, the real estate investor, more confidence in your tax strategy, in your tax knowledge, in the way that you approach taxes through your real estate portfolio so that you can not only have confidence, but also grow your income, grow your ROI, grow your cash flow, because we know that taxes are the biggest expense of your lifetime, but they don't need to be. Today, we're going to be talking about some breaking news. It is breaking news in the fact that Jeff Bezos is moving to Florida, Miami, Florida. He's moving from Washington to Florida, and we're going to be talking about why and how taxes might have played into this and what the rich are doing to avoid taxes. One of that is moving from Washington to Florida. But before we get to that, I would ask you if you get any sort of value out of this. As always, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and go ahead and share it with a friend. It really helps us get in the ears of those who most need it, because we know that taxes can be overwhelming. They can consume a lot of your time, and they are often frustrating, and they don't need to be if you find the right advice, the right people, and the right answers to your very educated questions. So today, again, like I said, we're going to be talking about breaking news. It broke 3 days ago. I think Jeff Bezos on his Instagram said that he's moving from Seattle, Washington, where he's been for the majority of his life, and moving to Florida. And there's a lot of insight. There's a lot of factors that go into this decision for him, and most of which is personal. He said his stepfather is down in the Miami area, and he wants to be closer to them, as well as his business in Florida. Begs the question, why is his business in Florida? And we'll be talking about that. As you guys probably know, Florida is one of the few states that has no income tax. Washington, on the other hand, has very high taxes. If you listen to our episode with Tim Cornwell, he is based in the Washington area, and he talks about how hard it can be to find those real estate properties that you need to make a living, that offer the high ROI and the cash flow. And as he said, the cap rate return on investment that he's looking for. And so he outsources to different states. And it seems that Jeff Bezos might be doing that. Now, he didn't say it's just because of taxes, but this is something that we're seeing quite a bit. You have states like California and Washington and New York that have an extreme burden on their citizens because of taxes, right? Historically, that is where a lot of high income earners have lived. They've lived in the places that are desirable to live, like California, New York, and Washington. But now, as remote work becomes more doable and we have more opportunity at our disposal to work where we want to, people are leaving. You can read article after article about the great exodus from these traditionally high tax states like New York and California to these low tax states like Florida and Texas. And so today, we just saw that Jeff Bezos decided to leave Washington to Florida. Now, Washington has a 6.5% state tax rate. So on his income that he's making, and God knows the income that he's reporting, he's paying 6.5% all the way up to potentially 8.86%. I'm looking now. And now he's going to Florida, and they're not going to be paying any state taxes. Now, there will be property taxes, and he just secured a pretty big property. But these are things to keep in mind as you venture out there and consider where you're going to invest, right? There are states like California, like Washington. I mean, I'm here in Minnesota. We have a pretty high tax rate as well. And then there's states like Texas and California, North Dakota, some of these states that have a very friendly tax environment that you could potentially park your properties and earn a tax-free income as a result. Now, keep in mind, usually when you have a low income tax rate, your property tax rate increases. So that affects people like you, the real estate investor. But the idea being that we are seeing a lot of people move from a state like California to a state like Texas, to a state like Florida, primarily, not single-handedly, but it plays a factor, is cost of living. And part of cost of living is these taxes that we pay. And really, the reason I'm doing this is because I want our listeners to be educated on how the economy works and what people are incentivized by. And one thing people are incentivized by is tax breaks and low taxes. And that's what, for the longest period, we have done very well here in the United States. We have incentivized our citizens, our business owners, our entrepreneurs to take advantage of these tax breaks, right? If you are familiar with previous episodes, we've talked about some of the industries that people focus on because there are tax incentives. As a real estate investor, this is one of the industries that you focus on. Small businesses, that's an industry that has a large amount of tax breaks when compared to the traditional W-2 income earner. And it's because we live in this country of the United States that incentivizes people through tax cuts. And now we're seeing, as more people have their eyes open to the potential to live where you want, work where you want, we see how taxes affect that, right? People are leaving these high tax states, New York and California. They lost out on a couple $100 million. I think I saw even as high as $1 billion and over $1 billion in revenue in 2022. Primarily because people are leaving, they're no longer paying taxes because it's just gotten too much, or they see greener pastures. And again, it's not all green pastures, right? There's other things that you need to consider, is these property taxes and other ways that it hits your bottom line. You know, there's more people moving there, so cost of living is probably going to increase. The house prices are going to go up because there's greater demand, right? It's basic supply and demand. But we're seeing how taxes impact even local economies, and on the bigger scale of this, we need to consider, okay, why do we think higher taxes might benefit our country? You know, there's no doubt that our country needs to make more money. We're in a severe amount of debt. I don't know what the latest numbers are, but it's 30 trillion at least. And how does the government make money? They charge taxes. So there's no doubt that we need taxes to come in to then pay the debts that we have. But it's also, how do we get our companies making money, which also benefits the economy? How do we do that? And it's through tax friendliness. We've seen a very tax-friendly environment from 2017 up until 2020, and even past now, 2022, 2023, and it's boosted our economy. If you look back to where we were in 2017 and to where we were at 2020 before the pandemic and everything else blew up, we were doing pretty well for ourselves. And a lot of it was because there was a tax cut in 2017, and there were incentives for people to invest in the economy and go out and do things on their own. Cost segregation became a big thing because of bonus depreciation in that 2017 tax cut, which then increased the real estate industry. And we're seeing the benefit of that. Now we don't know what's going to happen because interest rates have risen, and people are going to be underwater for some of those payments. But the idea being that the economy follows a pattern. If you lower taxes, your citizens are more likely to invest in that area. If you higher taxes and people are able to live where they want, they're going to skedaddle and get out of there. And we're seeing this in Jeff Bezos. So something to keep in mind as you continue to read the headlines and see people making moves, because this isn't done yet. I mean, assuming people continue to live remotely and even people continue to venture out on their own and consider where they want to live for the rest of their life, chances are you're going to see a continued migration. And then what do those states do when they have that migration? Because at some point you have to say, okay, this is getting out of control. Like, we're going to see some change in perspective with the people that are moving from California to Texas. With that comes their ideas behind how you can run a government. And those people are the same people that have been in California while they've increased taxes, and somebody has to vote for them. And chances are it's a lot of these people that are moving out. So who's to say that Texas won't become blue, or parts of Texas won't become blue and start to think differently about taxes? But the idea is taxes are a great incentive for people's decisions on where they live, what they do, how they make money, what they do with their money. And we're seeing that from the bottom of the food chain to what some people would refer to as the top of the food chain in Jeff Bezos. Although I think the food chain is a little different than we actually see here in our eyes, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. But I trust this was valuable. I believe that you guys will all start to think differently about where you're investing, because different locations offer different incentives. And remember, taxes aren't just federal, they're state and local, they're also property, and they're also sales, and many others. So it's important to work with a tax professional who knows all of these things and can wrap it up into a nice, pretty picture with your specific tax plan on it, which is what we do here at Better Books. If you're curious about that, if you're concerned that you've missed out on savings, we'd be happy to get in touch with you. God bless you all. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.